I believe is going to shock a lot of users and is going to be a lot of traction in the future. So this incentivized testnet is a great opportunity for users to earn Mayz from providing the service of testing the protocol and providing feedback.
What's up, Beta Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. My name is Fareed. As a part of today's video, I'm getting a sit down and a catch up with Diego Towers, aka Diego Torres, the CEO and founder of the MAYZ Protocol, bringing decentralized index funds to Cardano. Diego, good morning. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
Hey, Farid, thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me in the show.
You are completely welcome. We had a very nice chat a few months back, right before the announcement of the Mayz testnet. Since then, you guys have officially launched on the testnet, and I think there's some interesting news that you're going to be sharing with us here as a part of today's video. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Now, you haven't come here by yourself. We are also joined by Manu Padilla, who's, I believe, the smart contract developer for the Mayz Protocol. So welcome aboard as well, Manu. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. It's good night, actually, here. I am in Thailand. I am very sorry with the noise behind. I hope we can have a nice chat together.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. It's first thing here in the morning for me, and that's actually one of the things that I love about crypto, right? The fact that we're able to interact and engage no matter where we are across the world. Now, as we get ready to jump into everything Mayz, over to you, Diego. Can you maybe just quickly give us the elevator pitch as to what Mayz is and what it's bringing to the Cardano ecosystem for anybody who maybe is hearing about Mayz for the first time, who just wasn't able to catch up during our first sit down?
Yes, sure. Well, Mayz is a DeFi protocol that provides investment fund services. Let's remember that an investment fund is a financial product, typically traditional financial product that pulls money from multiple investors and buy a diversified portfolio, usually on stocks, bonds, real estate, commodities. So each investor can own a proportion of that fund according to the shares they have. So in Mayz, we brought this to the Web3 ecosystem within Cardano in a decentralized fashion. So you can provide the same service as a traditional investment fund. Like right now, we are all talking about BlackRock and the Bitcoin ETF. That's just to tell you, right now Bitcoin is touching 60,000. But basically, Mayz is a protocol that allows fund managers to create these funds, but without touching their clients' money. So that's huge. We cannot understand the impact right now, because in order to be a fund manager in the States and in many countries, as you are dealing with the money of your customers, you have to comply with a lot of procedures and a lot of compliance requirements. In this case, as is going to be secured by the protocol with a decentralized, permissionless, and non-custodial fashion, for example, there won't be any need for the famous KYC compliance for this type of financial services. So basically, that is what Mayz is. We will allow people to create these funds and investors to, of course, invest in those funds.
Thank you for the introduction there. A few things that stood out to me: no KYC, decentralized, and permissionless fund management, bringing really a ton of opportunities, right, to anybody here within Cardano. That said, it's been a minute since I've had you here on the channel. Things have obviously changed. You guys have shown more and more of the Mayz project and more of the Mayz protocol to the community, most recently launching a testnet. Can you maybe highlight, some of the feedback, number one, that you've received from the community, but the number two, how anybody within the Cardano community right now can get access to the Mayz protocol?
Well, basically, the main feedback that we receive is that we have a pretty nice UI. We make a great effort in order to make this complex process of creating the fund and actually getting the token, the fund token, into the investor hand. Doing that, it requires a lot of work. So we work with a lot with the UI. So for any user, this should be pretty easy to use. As you can see, it has a pretty good UI. So it's pretty easy for an investor to interact with this, even though there is a complex environment behind that. That I will explain a little bit during this interview, because the MAYZ protocol brings value not only to investors, that of course are the end client, but also to fund managers, because fund manager can create their own funds, and of course they can earn money from the asset under management under that fund. But also there is the liquidity provider role. That role is a key role for everything to work properly. So you have the fund manager who creates the fund. You have the liquidity provider that actually provides liquidity for the end user to actually get the token, and of course also earn money, and without the impairment loss problem that most of the liquidity dexes have. So it's pretty interesting how we tackle that problem, and how can we bring value to investors, to liquidity providers, and to fund manager, and of course to the Cardano ecosystem in general. So that is pretty much, and of course some of the guys are asking, well, when is going to be mainnet? When is going to be mainnet? That's the main question that we can address that, but by the end of the interview.
Thank you for that. I'm wondering, can you maybe dive into some of the roles, right? So I've heard of the fund manager at this point. We've also touched on the person who's actually purchasing these assets, right? Or these token baskets. You also mentioned a liquidity provider or liquidity manager as well. So maybe, just stepping back again, for anybody who's hearing about Mayz for the first time, can you kind of talk about each of these roles and exactly what's expected, but then also the benefits of those roles? Because what I heard you mention earlier was the fact that as a manager, right, you're also able to earn by taking care of some of those funds.
Yes, sure. Let's go first to the basic role, which is the investors. If you are an investor and you wanted to get exposure to Cardano, what you need to do is to start buying tokens. As you know, that can be hard, not only for the do your own research perspective, but also for the picking stocks. Picking stock is pretty hard, even if you do your own research. So instead of having as it is so-called an active investment strategy in which you pick those winners, the best way to get exposure is to have a passive investment strategy in which you get exposure to the ecosystem as a whole. You don't have to pick winners. You just get exposure to the ecosystem. In traditional finance, this has been proven the most effective way of investing in the long term, because nobody could, and probably will beat the market systematically. So, but in order to do that, you need to spend a lot of time buying tokens, making swaps in different different markets, and you have to spend a lot of money in fees, because you have to pay the network fee, the DEX fee. So there is the famous impact price and all of that, which is as regards in indexes. So instead of doing that, you can just go to MAYZ Protocol and buy the fund that most represents your views about Cardano. For example, right now in the testnet environment that we are going to incentivize, and we will talk about this in a few minutes, we have 4 funds. We start with 4 funds. A DEX fund in which you can have all the DEXs in different proportions. A DeFi fund with several DeFi protocols, and a lend fund. So a fund focused on lending. And we have an index fund, a Cardano index fund that is a fund of funds. So this fund has the other 3. So you can have exposure to the 3 ecosystems. So basically, you as an investor pick the one you want, and you make a swap straightforward from ADA. Of course, you will pay some fees, but those fees are going to be much lower than if you do it by yourself. And that is even more so if you are on a small investment, because as you know, when you do a swap, you have a fixed cost. You have to pay a certain amount of ADA that is not related to the amount of tokens that you are swapping. So if you are a small investor, for you it's impossible to diversify, because you will be paying a lot of costs according to the investment. So Mayz will help a lot those small investors that want to get exposure to a well-diversified portfolio. But even though if you are a mid investor or even a big investor, for you will be easier to use Mayz Protocol, and probably cheaper, even cheaper. So this is for the investor side. For the use case for an investor is only connect the wallet to the protocol, pick your fund, and select how much ADA do you want to spend, buy, and that's it, and you get the exposure. And if at the end, let's say sometime in the future, you want to get the assets behind the token, you can just withdraw the token and get the assets back. So you can actually get the assets, the tokens that are backing that. So it's pretty straightforward, open, trustless as can be. For the fund manager, which is in the other side, you are able to create your funds according to hypotheses. So let's say you believe that there is a specific set of assets that represent your investment hypothesis. Well, you can do that. And let's say you have actually your network, you have your clients that actually trust you in other investments because you are a fund manager. Well, you can bring all of that into Cardano without touching the assets, just setting the parameters of the fund. And then, of course, you can be a liquidity provider also. It's more recommendable if you create a fund, you provide the first liquidity, but after that is the community that is going to provide liquidity. So you only have to set the parameters and manage that, because you can reindex if needed. And you earn fees from the asset under management. Those fees that are collected from the asset under management will be paid to the fund manager first, to the Mayz holders, I'm going to tell you how, and to the protocol. So it's going to be on this economic model. But let's say you are a liquidity provider. You are just a Cardano user. You're just a user, and you want to get some revenues from your assets. That's like in any DeFi protocol. What you can do is to provide liquidity. And this is extremely easy. What you will do is you will create a swap order that is going to be open, and in that order you will deposit ADA and you will deposit fund tokens from the fund that you choose to provide liquidity. So there's going to be a UTXO that will have these funds, ADA plus the token, and any investor can interact with that swap offer. Give you ADA and take the tokens, or give you tokens and get ADA. So in any swap, you will earn fees from being the swap order owner. So, and you don't have impairment loss, because the price can go up, go down, and it's not going to affect the assets that are there. So let's say you are bullish in Cardano, as most of your listeners probably are. What you can do is to provide ADA and some index token. Let's say you are a pretty bullish indexes. Well, you can buy the token, the DEX fund tokens, deposit ADA in any quantity. Doesn't have to be 50-50. You can put a small amount of ADA and a lot of amount of tokens, and just leave that swap offer open for anyone to interact. So, and you of course will get some fee from any swap. So as you can see, it's an amazing way to get some income, some passive income on a passive investment strategy if you are bullish on ADA and Cardano in general. I think this is going to be amazing.
Thank you, Diego. Your expertise really coming through and how you're able to explain the positives, right, on both ends. So you highlighted the investor side, which I think that's the majority of people, right? Majority of folks coming to the platform will be coming in as investors looking to get access to these tokenized assets representing, as you mentioned, DEXs, DeFi, lending and borrowing, and then interestingly enough, an index of indexes, right? Which again, I think is a huge hedge as the bull market picks up and as people want to get exposure to as many projects as possible. So I appreciate that breakdown. And then you also highlighted some of the benefits from a fund manager side, right? Where because they're doing the heavy lifting of identifying and creating these funds, right? They're able to earn some of the fees generated by the fund, but then also Mayz holders and liquidity providers are able to earn in that particular aspect as well. So again, really nice ecosystem that you've highlighted here. Now, I want to maybe give you two routes to go down. Do you want to maybe jump into the incentivized testnet first, or should I jump into more of the technical questions in smart contracts, which maybe might be geared, towards Manu? I just want to maybe kind of ask him a little bit about some of the challenges and hurdles, but then also touch on how these smart contracts are different than some of the other protocols that also aim to do decentralized index funds on Cardano. So either way is fine with me.
Well, let me just talk a little bit about the incentivized network, and then can come to the technical side. We, in order to be before the incentivized network, let me just explain a little bit about the tokenomics of the token, because the token has a lot to do with this. In order to be a fund manager, you need to stake Mayz into the protocol, because we want fund managers that actually have a stake in the game within the protocol. So, and to avoid bad users and spam and all of that. So there is the Mayz token is an utility token. So fund manager need to invest in Mayz in order to provide the services. But the same goes for the swap offer owners in a smaller amount. So as soon as this protocol goes live, there's gonna be probably demand for the token in order to be part of these roles that are required to have tokens. That is pretty important. So the Incentivized Testnet, which is the program that we are launching this March 10th, we are gonna launch this program, the Incentivized Testnet program, that basically has two main goals. One of the goals is, of course, to get feedback from the community previous to mainnet, besides the feedback we already have. But as we are incentivizing that, we believe there's gonna be a lot of interactions with the protocol, and we will reward specific tasks that will require to perform in order to get the rewards. So for us, it's going to be pretty valuable. But also those that in the future may think, okay, I would like to use Mayz, instead of just have to go to the secondary market and buy the tokens to provide liquidity, for example, they can earn that liquidity from this program. So the idea is to give as many accessibility to the community around Mayz as possible. Right now, we have a pretty small community, you should know. So there is an opportunity here to be part of this amazing protocol that right now, I may say, is not well known in the general ecosystem. Of course, it's a protocol that has been around for like a year in terms of development and community actions, but I believe it's going to shock a lot of users and it's going to be a lot of traction in the future. So this incentivized testnet is a great opportunity for users to earn Mayz from providing the service of testing the protocol and providing feedback.
Thank you for highlighting that. And I want to just take a step back before jumping into my comments for the incentivized testnet. As you mentioned, right, to prevent people from jumping on the platform, creating, bogus funds or just bogging down the platform with useless funds, right? They have to actually have skin in the game by holding that MAYZ token. If you, the viewer, want to get access to the MAYZ token right now, there's, I believe, two ways, right? The first is to participate in the ongoing ISPO. Actually, now three ways with the incentivized testnet. So there's the ISPO that's ongoing. There's the incentivized testnet, which will also be coming up. But then there's also the liquidity pool, I believe, which is now live on the Spectrum deck. So I wanted to just quickly highlight that there. And I think that's a really good measure. There's been talks about having people put up ADA in order to actually put proposals on Project Catalyst. And even once governance comes alive, we've already seen, I think, the Indigo team do that, right? Again, I think these sort of barriers help weed out good actors that are there to actually utilize the protocol versus bad actors that just want to create a fund or a proposal for the sake of doing so. So I wanted to quickly highlight that there and then let the community know how they can actually participate in earning MAYZ ahead of the actual mainnet launch. Now, when it comes to the incentivized testnet, I believe you said there's two ways to earn, right? Well, one way mainly, which is by contributing feedback, but then executing goals once the testnet goes live. Can you maybe highlight when we expect for the incentivized testnet to launch, but then also how much MAYZ, right, out of the total token supply will be allocated for the testnet or for the
Right.
incentivized testnet?
Right. The incentivized the testnet is available right now. You can get into the protocol and start using it from with a preview environment. We are working in the preview Cardano environment. But from March 10th, the 10th, to April the 10th or the 9th, like 30 days, continuing days, 30 days, we are going to incentivize certain specific actions, like basic actions like buy a fund token. Just for buying, just for performing the action of being an investor, you will earn some MAYZ. Buy, and the second stage is like buy the token and create a swap order and become a liquidity provider in this. So in order to do that, you need to have some MAYZ, because the protocol will say, okay, if you wanted to provide liquidity, you have to have MAYZ and stake MAYZ when you create the order. So this incentivized testnet will require the users to go to a few faucets and get MAYZ for preview, and ADA also they will need ADA. So in the incentivized testnet medium article that we are going to launch, there's all the data. But basically, you can do that. And the most advanced user will buy the token, create the swap, operate with their own swap, delete the swap order, and withdraw the token. So there are more actions to do. All of that, even if you are the beginner, the medium, or the advanced, you will have to submit through a Google form the address that you are using for the test, the address on Mainnet in order to receive the rewards, and a few survey that we are going to make in order to make this more valuable for us. So that is the process. And basically, we have 1 month to perform the actions. Then we will take like 2-3 weeks in order to review all the transactions and provide like the MAYZ claimable, the amount of MAYZ claimable for each address. And on Mainnet, which I'm going to tell you when, we will release the token through a claimable link. The amount of MAYZ is 3 million MAYZ that we are going to allocate, and we are going to spend the 3 million. So if there is only one person, well, that will get the 3 million. Of course, it's not going to be one for sure, but the idea is to incentivize those that actually, to reward those actually supporting the project.
Thank you, Diego, for literally answering each of those points there. Yeah, as you said, because you guys are going to be giving away all the tokens regardless, I think that even ups the ante for people to jump in there, right? Because again, if there are fewer people, that just means more going to that smaller pot. So I'll definitely be doing my duty, right, to spread this out to the community, hopefully getting this to their feeds, etc. That way they can jump in there beginning on March 10th. So now that we've touched on what Mayz is, the testnet, the incentivized testnet, before I highlight mainnet, let's maybe shift over to Manu at this point, right? I think he's been a little quiet. Manu, from a developer's perspective, can you maybe touch on some of the hurdles and some of the challenges, right, that you and the Mayz team kind of faced when setting up the smart contracts and just setting up the testnet?
Hello, thank you. Okay. I think that the main thing that we faced was our scope, our horizon, the dream that we have, the project, no, and trying to make it real and make it affordable and do it in a decentralized way. I think that was the hardest part. So we spent a lot of time in planning and a lot of design of the architecture. It's involved a lot of contracts. I can tell that maybe there is 14 contracts only for the protocol itself and 5 contracts scripts for each new fund that is created. So it's a lot of design and how everything is interconnected. So I think that was our big challenge from the beginning, and we tried our best to achieve what we wanted, the functionality that we wanted, because we thought in many moments to cut off some actions, some possibilities, or go to centralize it some functionality because it was really hard to do it in a decentralized way. But I think we achieved to a really nice place because most of the things that we dream, they are there. We faced limits in a lot of limits in matter of execution and memory that you have in each transaction that you can do. And how many scripts that are involved and how is the complex the logic of these scripts and all the data that is needed. So reducing that to be able to make all these actions possible, there is complex interactions. There is chances that the funds managers can reindex the tokens of the funds under some circumstances. There is all these swaps. There is withdraw. There is collect commissions because as Diego told, all the Mayz holders will be, which decide to delegate to some funds, they will also be part of these commissions, and they will be able to collect. The protocol, the fund manager, everyone need to have an interaction how to collect. So all this, and I think it was the harder part, but we are happy. We achieved to a nice setup, and we passed by some first, I will say, auditory and testing review, and that helped us a lot to gain trust and confidence in what we did, because in 99% it was okay, the approach. There was some suggestions that we took it, and we're happy because they help us in some things, but the core of the idea was strong, was yes, good foundations, and yeah, we're happy. And I think the last thing about the complexities is just the evolution of the Cardano developer ecosystem in some way. You know, how the technologies are changing, are adding new functionalities. Luckily, since 1 year, something we are kind of more stable, and libraries and the framework that we used to work, they were remaining in some way stable, and all the things that we built and are still working in perfect fashion. So yes.
Thank you for that, Manu. I've got a follow-up, and maybe this is something that Diego or Manu can answer, right? So it sounds like there was a really big focus on decentralization, which I think is sort of what Cardano is known for, right? One of the most decentralized blockchains. And I think making sure that the protocol itself is decentralized is huge. And it sounds like that was a big focus. You also mentioned a lot of these different functions, right? Between claiming, swapping, just all these different interactions and actions that either an investor or a liquidity or fund manager can do, right? So I think that's huge as well in terms of flexibility and then letting people actually be able to run this protocol themselves. One of the questions I want to follow up with is just with respect to efficiency, right? So can you guys maybe highlight, and I have a follow-up here surrounding the audit, but before we get to that, can you guys maybe highlight whether or not you guys are using Plutus V1 or Plutus V2 and some of the potential efficiency updates with V2 if you guys are utilizing that? If you're using V1, are there plans on jumping over and switching over to V2?
I will, I will, bro. Yes, this is based all in Plutus V2. So basically, we couldn't do this in V1, so it's all based in that. So we hope that this will be the base for work that will be like this for long. We think that it's in a stable situation and it can work and it's doing what we want, so it's okay. In some point, we also thought that could be some future release that we will pass to what is the another language? There is another language now. I forget it out of my mind. To write the code, because now it's all written in Haskell and compiled by Plutus TX. But I just forget. I'm sorry. There is some possibilities of doing if we find that there is functionalities that we really need and we want and user needs and we think that it can be a good improve. In the future, we will think in going to another technology, but now it's perfect in this way.
Well, we shouldn't forget that this is an MVP. This launching is an MVP, so it will have a lot of upgrades in the future. It will probably have a brand new protocol architecture in the future, like any other protocol. But as Manu was saying, it's done in good ground basis. So we think at least it's going to last a few years as it is, with upgrades. And in the middle of that process, as is pretty early within the Cardano ecosystem, there will be for sure improvements that will make us to create another version, not from scratch, but of course, but brand new.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense as protocols mature, tooling gets better with things, for example, like Icon, Plutus, Helios, all these different things that abstract and make it easier to develop. It only makes sense for you guys to upgrade. Very similarly, for example, lending and borrowing or synthetics. We've seen Indigo, go from V1 to V2. When you take a look at DEXs, MintSwap, V1, V2, all these projects eventually have to upgrade as Plutus, Haskell, and smart contracting development gets easier here on Cardano. The very last sort of technical question I have is surrounding the audit. So again, Diego or Manu, can you guys maybe highlight, the audit process, how that's going, has that been completed, etc.?
Well, we got a code review, a full code review from TX Pipe. That gave us like a good sense of where we were up to, or how solid all that we have done. Though this report, at least partly, I believe is public, and they gave us a pretty good feedback. So we were pretty much okay. Of course, there were some improvement things, and Manu performed all of that. Regarding the audit, we are talking to Anastasia. We are not. We will probably go to Mainnet before doing the audit, and we will do that because right now, we, as you know, we proposed to make the audit in the Fund 11, and we didn't get fund. And this is a project that was fun with a very organic process. So it's not that we have lots of fun to spend, let's say, $60,000 in an audit right now. So we will launch on Mainnet probably without the audit from Anastasia done. but we will do that as soon as possible. And basically, that is our reality right now.
Thank you. I've had Philip DeSaro on the channel here a few times, and he's actually talked about doing pro bono audits, right? So I would definitely try to maybe tug on him a little bit to see if there's anything that he can do there, because he's mentioned the fact that that's their job, right? And we've seen a lot of people requesting funds for audits. Obviously, if they're open source, I'm all behind that because everybody can benefit from that code audit. You know, in your case, again, whether or not it's closed source, I think is up to
No,
you guys
it's
to
open
decide.
source. It's open
Okay.
source. All the smart contracts are open source. What is not open source is the UI basically, but the UI can be built for any third party and interact with the same smart contracts.
Got it. Yeah, I'd be really interested to see what Philip has to say with that, because I feel like that was the only stipulation, right? When he kind of mentioned doing pro bono audits, was that, hey, if we're doing these audits, we just want to make sure that that code that we audit is just available to the public, which it sounds like it will be for Mayz. So hopefully you guys are able to get that taken care of with Anastasia Labs. Okay, Diego, I think we're here at the biggest part. We've touched on the testnet, everything, the audit, the technical challenges, etc. When can we expect for this to come on the mainnet?
Well, actually, we don't have a date right now, but it will come after the testnet, the incentivized testnet. We will take a few weeks to process all the feedback, and if everything is okay, we will launch to the mainnet, because the protocol is fully developed. Is working as should work in mainnet. We've been doing some testing, and everything gave us a good reply. We in parallel with the testnet, the incentivized testnet, we hire a company to do the quality assurance user testing. So we will have both tests, the community test and some professional testing. And with those, okay, we will launch on mainnet as soon as possible, because we don't have anything else to do besides the audit. But we did decide that the audit shouldn't prevent us from going mainnet. Of course, we will disclose that probably in the same UI, so anyone can know that. But we believe we should move forward with this MVP. And one of the constraints that we will have in the first version is that the funds will only be able to be created by us. This is the only constraint we are going to make. So the fund manager, we are going to be the only ones who will have this functionality. And as month goes and everything goes okay, we will open the opportunity to anyone to become a fund manager. That is the constraint that we are going to have at first.
Thank you for the transparency, obviously here, but then also even with the users, right? Letting them know, hey, we are still working on the audit. That could definitely be a concern for a few of them, but understanding that you guys are trying to get to launch, trying to get a product out there. And as you mentioned, evolving as time goes on, not sitting around and saying, hey, we're only going to wait until we get funded by Catalyst, et cetera, which you have no control over, right? So to that end, I appreciate that. As we get ready to land the plane here, right? I quickly touched on the ISPO earlier, the liquidity incentives or the liquidity program. You know, is there anything that you want to share here with the community that we maybe just haven't got to touch on yet? Or even if it's just with respect to incentivized testnet?
Well, no, regarding the liquidity, we now have a limited liquidity. So we would like to have more liquidity in the secondary market. We will have, but right now, as the protocol is not a mainnet, there is no too much utility from the token. We understand this situation, so we are incentivizing those that actually provide the liquidity with a pretty high APY. In Mayz tokens, you can earn 125% annually in Mayz tokens that are being paid day by day. So day by day, you can claim Mayz tokens with no vesting, with anything. You just can claim it and reinvest it or do whatever you want, or hold them in order to become a user in the future and have enough Mayz to be a liquidity provider or even a fund manager in the future.
Thank you for that. I think we're going to go ahead and get some closing thoughts from the both of you. So I think we'll let Manu go. Maybe anything that you want to share, Manu, with the community here with respect to the technical aspects of Mayz, and then I'll turn it over to Diego for his closing thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I hope everything was a little clarifier for the people. From the technical point of view, just pinpoint that, yes, it was a big project with a very big scope, and we're happy that we achieved to something that is doing what we dream. And we are looking forward to see what is the reaction of the community. And happy to achieve to this decentralized service that it was a very hard thing to do, and we have a lot of help, a lot of people that was there and supporting us and helping us. Also, I give a thanks to all the people that help us in the past. Help me also with the code, to the people of TX5 and everything.
Nicely said. I want to thank you, right, Manu, but then the rest of the development team as well. I'm sure you guys have put in countless hours to make Mayz come true. And now with a couple of months left, it looks like you guys are just about to cross the finish line. Over to you, Mr. Torres, surrounding closing thoughts.
No, I will just say that we are pretty proud about what we have done. I think it's pretty meaningful development and contributions to the Cardano community. Right now is pretty much unknown, the protocol, like Cardano is unknown in the rest of the ecosystem. So a lot of people will find this with a high surprise in Cardano as a network, because I still know that in other networks they still believe that this is a ghost network, that nothing happened in Cardano, so they have no idea. When they find out, this is going to be huge. And for Mayz Protocol, well, Mayz Protocol will be just aligned with that, so it's going to be great. And for us, it's a pleasure to have work and contribute to this amazing community that is Cardano.
Ladies and gentlemen, Diego Torres, aka Diego Towers, as well as Manu Padilla, lead smart contract developer here for the Mayz Protocol. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here as a part of today's video to reintroduce Mayz, to jump into the testnet, the incentivized testnet, and potentially when we could see this launching live on the mainnet. For you, the viewers watching at home, if you guys enjoyed today's chat with both of these two reps here from the Mayz Protocol, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time stopping by Dapp Central and you want more content like this, highlighting all the greatest builders here on the ecosystem, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any technical questions, leave them down below for Manu. If you have any sort of other questions related to Mayz Protocol, leave them down below for Diego. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next video.